Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Biters. If you have downloaded this and you are listening to it, either it means you made a horrible mistake and you meant to download something else, or preferably you are here to listen to us wax philosophical and analytical about the recent episode of Walking Dead and all things zombie. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jeff Marsick, and with me is my good friend and well-versed expert in all things zombie that George Romero has on speed dial as a consultant, actually. Kirk Manley.
What's up, everybody?
All right, so this is, episode 6. Season's just flying by.
It really is. Now, is there 8 for the first half?
I believe so, more? Yes.
So we've only got 2 episodes left.
Yep. And we'll be placing our bets as to what what we think
the season finale,
the mid-season break will be.
Oh, yeah, mid-season finale.
So this was episode 6 titled Live Bait. And, Kirk and I have some strong feelings about this episode. And I'm just going to put this out there right up front. If you're listening to it, or if you're listening to this podcast, we're under the assumption you've already seen this episode, you know what's going on, or you've not seen it and you want us to just fill in the blank for you. So, there's going to be spoilers. We're going to spoil it right from the start. If we're going to spoil any comic book news or anything else, we'll give you a heads up for that. But basically, just let you know what you're in for by listening. So.
Yeah, we'll try to point it out. We will try not to. We don't do any spoilers for upcoming episodes other than anything that was in the trailer that they show at the end of the episode. But so we just do a lot of speculating.
Yeah, and our speculations have proven to be not very very good, but we'll speculate anyway.
I think this was if I could start off, I think that this was a tough challenge. I think Gimple and the crew had a tough challenge this week because they had this character that they didn't kill last season.
The governor that we're talking about,
right? The governor, and he had to be dealt with. So I think the question, I guess, that I don't know who, it's you never know what's going on in the background, who made what decisions. Scott Gimple wasn't in charge last season, so he had to pick up this season with the pieces that he was handed. And one of those things was he's got this, kind of two-dimensional villain from last season that, totally snapped and killed his entire army and took off running and kind of left in this bizarre way that he had to somehow bring completion to or tie that loose end up and bring this guy back somehow. So the question I guess he was faced with is how do you do this and not just repeat last season? My take is that they chose to try and tie his character into the overall theme, what it appears to be the overall theme of at least this first half of of season 4, which is kind of can you come back from what you've done? Can Carol come back from what she's done? Can Rick come back from what he's done? Can Herschel? Everyone's been dealing with that question. The things you have to do in this apocalypse to survive, and then what do you get the ability to kind of come back from having gone over the edge?
Yeah, and, one of the things that the governor, you and I both love the governor when he was in the comic book, and I think that he was an interesting character in that he played in that gray area where I so love characters to play. They're one side can see them as good, one side can see them as bad. And, one of the things that we had about the governor was that he was this kind of egomaniacal guy who knew what was right.
Wait a minute, you're talking about, when you say gray, you're talking about the TV version, not the comic book version.
Right.
Okay.
So where he had Woodbury, it was a haven for, he knew what was good for those people, right? And there were rules, and they were his rules, and this is how we're going to live here. And he basically took the control out of the people because he knew, out of the people's hands, because he knew what was good for them. And but it was heavy-handed, and he did questionable things.
Well, he was a psycho. I mean, in one respect, I mean, because
Right, and
any
yes,
threats to his power, he
right,
was killing. The army guys, he totally wiped out because they
right,
were potential. They would probably want to take over. And then, he had this sick fetish of taking the heads of the people who had threatened him and he killed, and then putting them in the tanks and everything else. So, and he's keeping his zombie daughter chained up, and he's just. He was just a total psycho in one regard, and then yes, in the other regard, he was his strength and his power was helping to maintain order
right.
in this town that therefore provided some safety for the people in that town.
But what upset me about the governor at the end of last season and the whole raid on the prison was, and I think that the crew at The Walking Dead, the writers and the creators, the showrunners, they boxed themselves into a corner when he turned on his own people. Look, I'll let like you just said, he was psychotic on one hand, but he tried in his addled mind, he thought he was doing right for his people.
Well, I think the interpretation I get is that he started off with the right intention.
Right.
But then he got way off course.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely,
right.
all that stuff. But where they boxed themselves into a corner was when he turned on his people and he shot everybody. It's look. I
can't even imagine what they were thinking with that. I still can't figure out. I mean, that is just. It was just. I sat there watching it with my jaw on the floor. I was like, where the hell is this going and why?
And the fact
it makes no sense.
Yeah, and the fact that he'd still have Martinez and who's the other guy, Schambert or Schumbert,
yeah,
whatever.
Something like that. Yeah.
That you would have these two guys after seeing that. Yeah, okay, boss, we'll go off with you. I mean, their characters were even lowered in my mind. Hell, even Jack Nicholson's Joker. In the first Batman, look, I get when you get upset and you just pull a gun, you got to release, Bob, gun, and he shoots Bob. I get that, but to mow down all those people, I'll even give you the governor sitting there going, you all suck. I wanted to take the prison and everybody's pansying out. Who's coming with me? And I'm getting out of here. Pulling a Jerry Maguire, who's with me? And everybody, and he takes. I get that, but what he did. It was deplorable, and we all agree to that. So now, to redeem him, like you said, the overarching theme of the season is redemption, and can you come back? Now you've got to redeem him from that. Good luck with that. How are you going to pull that off?
I think that's where I feel that I agree. I totally agree. I think that's where the ball got dropped. Is that, and again, they're trying to do something unexpected with him. I think they probably assumed everyone expected him to come back even more demented and more crazy than before. And personally, yes, and that's what they should have done, But I guess they felt it would catch people off guard. It would be more creative. It would tie more into the theme of the season if they could tear this guy down and try to say, okay, I totally lost it, and now I've got to try to redeem myself. But man, I tell you, trying to get me you're trying to get me to have positive feelings about Carol or to feel conflicted about Carol. That's understandable. I mean, what she did for reasons that in her mind made sense, that in the zombie apocalypse you could even argue made sense in some regard. So you can that's a hard one to say right or wrong on. Same thing with Rick. So but there's the governor. There's just no way you cannot. There's no way you're going to get me to feel for this guy in any way, shape, or form.
Right. And I think that in the beginning, the teaser part where we see him at the end of the last episode, and then one of our favorite parts of the trailer for this week was that zombie coming. He's sitting in front of the fire, and the zombie comes shuffling towards him, and his face plants in the fire, and he just looks at the thing. And thing comes crawling up to him, and Martinez has to put it down before it gets to him. And and then when we come back from the commercial break, or was it no, before the commercial break, we see that when they go to sleep in their little tents, he
Right.
wakes up and they've gone, which I thought was awesome. That I
Well, I
really like
think
that one.
if looking at the good, better, and bad, the good, bad, and ugly, right? That's
Yeah,
our structure. That was the best part for me was the whole opening sequence. I thought, I actually was like, wow, maybe this is going to be all right, because that when they open it up, the fact that it started right exactly where he'd killed everybody, I thought that was great. It was like almost like a Breaking Bad flashback type thing,
yeah,
and I mean, it did a good job. I was right there, like you said. Then he's totally spaced out. The zombie almost gets him, and Martinez takes him out, and then he wakes up. They're not there, like you're saying. I agree. That was perfect. Absolutely, those guys have got to be. Forget the fact that the zombie almost took him, and they're like, "Oh my, this guy is totally off the deep end." But if I was those two guys, I'd be like, "Look, it's just a matter of time before this guy turns on us."
right.
You know what I mean? So we're out of here. And I was like, thank goodness. There's no way those guys, even if they're bad guys and henchmen, they got a brains.
Right.
They got brains. They're not going to hang with this guy after what he just did.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's believable. Now he's really down there in the dirt. Now he is like, not only is he like killed everybody, but now he's alone. And I mean, he's got to be the most bitter SOB. And what's he do? He gets in that truck and he smashes into the town that he,
Yep.
used to be the lord of, and he burns it to the ground. And I'm like, yes, he's totally gone, radically bad now, And then the next thing, he's like this wandering hobo,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute.
I mean, there were times when I was watching him just shambling along. When I was watching, I was like, "Is that Rick? Was that Rick from like season 2?" So, I mean, yeah, exactly. They should have the whole mopey thing where, and I don't remember where he stops being mopey. I don't know, around Act 3, so well into the episode. It's funny because when I sit and I watch an episode, I've got my little notebook here, and I always jot down some notes and make comments and stuff. And usually it's 2 pages, sometimes 3 pages. I barely got through an entire page of notes. Which is basically just shows how little actually went on here. But the whole shambling mess, the whole just, doesn't say a word, and he's grown the Duck Dynasty beard, and, just, shuffling along. There's no difference between him and the Walkers. And I was like, well, that's not original. I mean, we've done that before. Rick did that. Why didn't you guys go in a different direction? Make him angry. Make him go, look, these guys took everything away from me. I am
Right.
where I am now because of what they did. Did I fly off the handle? Yeah, that was a bad day for me. But, they're the ones responsible. I know what's good for these people. Where's
Right.
that guy? But
Well, it was also, they had painted him so clearly last season as this vengeful, paranoid sociopath. I mean, he killed Andrea because she wasn't loyal to him.
right.
She chose the prison, and she didn't even choose the prison. She chose to try and prevent the war. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to do that, she tried to make peace, and he saw that as a threat and as a lack of loyalty. So he kills her, and then he kills the doctor guy. What was his name?
Miles.
Milton.
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 Yeah.
Again, just because the guy helped him, and therefore, it wasn't totally, blind loyalty to the governor. So this guy, is this vengeful guy. We've seen this. He's this totally vengeful, evil person. To then, why he wouldn't continue that character's street and now say, okay, I've lost everything, absolutely everything. When he comes out of that tent and they're gone, and it's all because of Rick.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have my vengeance. I could even buy the wandering, that he becomes this one, because it was cool when I thought one really cool thing about that was when he's wandering and that zombie comes up to him, and he just kind of lightly swerves to the side, and the zombie swings by, and then he keeps going. It's as if he's like become a living dead person.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I thought that was really cool. And I was like, okay, maybe they're going to continue to take this guy down and down and down and down even further, you know. But then I was like, now, you know, I don't know what they're going to do to light the match to reignite him, you know. But um, you know, so I was along at least up to that point. I also loved the music in that when he's crashing through the town and burning it down, and it's a song by Ben Nichols called "The Last Pale Light in the West," and again, I think that would have tied right into, you know, he sees himself as the last, you know, chance for humanity. That's what he thinks. You know, he thinks his town and what he was trying to set up was going to be the, you know, the new human race. And so with him, if still alive, it could still happen, and he's going to make it happen. You know, that's how I was hoping they were going to go with it. But then we come back from the commercial break, and the rest is history.
Yeah, going back to that song, that was a great song, and I think that if there was more music and more videos, like, I mean, it was basically a music video, and if you know, if there were more videos like that, I think country music would have have a lot more following in this country. But
I still wouldn't be following it. Sorry.
Are you kidding me? Throw a zombie in. If I throw a zombie in opera, you'll be like the biggest fan.
Actually, I like opera.
We'll have to post that video for that song on.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. It's funny when when the show goes on, my kids have been in bed for about a half hour. So sometimes they're asleep, sometimes they're not. So I have to really, you know, I keep the sound down and but anyway, that started, and all of a sudden at the break, I hear my son. He's like, "Dad, Dad." So I go in. He's like, "What was that song that was just playing?" He says, "I want that. Find that on YouTube. Find that to download tomorrow." So I had to get him that song. Let's see. There were some other things that I did like. I want when we're talking about the good. I loved when when he gets into finally meets the family or whatever, and he's gonna go in for the day or whatever, and they take his gun and they say to him, "We'll hold on to your gun till you leave." And I thought that was exactly what he said to Michonne and Andrea. Remember,
Right.
He took their weapons.
Yep.
And it was just this great little flashback to, you know, now the shoe's on the other foot. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, do you want to? I know you might want to talk a little bit about, because you were before we started. You were talking about the name he chose, Brian. For me, the significance of him not saying his actual name. His actual name is Philip, right? I think.
Right.
Was, you know, he's trying to wipe out his past self. You know, he's the whole thing with the picture where he turns it over and you know, basically takes himself out of the picture when he gives a different name.
Right.
I think he is. That was them trying to say, okay, here's a guy who's trying to completely erase who he was and what he's done. I don't buy it, but I thought it was a well done thing.
So let me just talk about that for a second.
Sure.
So people who are familiar with the governor from before, his name was Philip, and then when he meets these girls, meets the women, he says that his name is Brian, and Brian Harriet. Now remember,
which, by the way, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So remember, as he was walking along, he sees the side of that barn where people were writing messages. Again, another little cool thing. Just a detail. I mean, people leaving messages for each other and writing on sides of buildings and stuff. I thought was cool.
Absolutely, that was excellent.
So what did it say? Something was like, "Bill Harriet, we miss you, we love you, we're so looking for you," or something like that. So when he shows up, or Brian Harriet, when he shows up, they say, "What's your name?" And he says, "Brian Harriet." Okay, so that's where he got that name. Now, and remember, his real name is Philip. Now, there's an amalgamation going on here. We've talked about this a couple episodes of the podcast so far about how they're trying to, the creative team is trying to combine, merge. They're merge the comics now with the novel, which was The Walking Dead: Rise of the Governor. The novel with the comic with the TV show, and kind of not so much bring them all in line together, but just make them cross at points, just to let you know that there is a connection between all this. So Kirk and I have not read The Rise of the Governor, the Walking Dead novel. actually had no interest in it. But the gist of it is about the names and where all this amalgamation comes from is in the Walking Dead: Rise of the Governor. It's revealed that the governor's Michael Morrissey's character, or David Morrissey, character, his real name is Brian Blake. There's the Brian from the Brian Harriet. Philip was his deceased brother. When the dead began to rise, Brian and Philip created a small group, which included Brian's niece, Penny. She's not actually his daughter. And they were constantly on the run because of unsecured locations. And eventually Brian's group comes to Woodbury, which was a town led by National Guardsmen who used fear to assert their authority. After becoming the last of his group, Brian rallies the townspeople against the guardsmen and declares himself the governor. He kept the zombified Penny tied up in his apartment. So that's what they were. I think that's what they were doing is the naming convention. That's that little juxtaposition. There, see, I've used it. We've kept that word alive.
I've been working hard not to use it. So,
dang it, I kept it alive. So there's that crossing point between novel, comic, and the TV show right there as they played with the names, which was kind of neat.
I think they're trying to for those who really got into the novels, they want to pay homage to them. They want to tip a hat to them. Same thing with the comic, and so there's a lot of that going on. But I think it in this particular case, it kind of works against it for me because I think it muddies the character a little bit.
Yes.
My personal opinion, as we were talking about before we got started, was, they had this guy that was, really evil, but he had done so many horrible things that, I don't think it's fair for them to ask us to try and have some sort of sympathy for this guy and to have some compassion for the fact that he's been so torn down and now, is trying to redeem himself. You don't get, for me, maybe I'm too black and white, but after what he's done, you don't get to redeem yourself. You know what I mean? You're you're evil.
Right.
And I think in reality, his mind wouldn't allow himself to do that. I think if you're that broken and you've gone that far, my life experience is that those kind of people just remain broken, and if anything, they dig deeper into their craziness to avoid seeing what they've done. And so my expectation for that character would have been that, when he comes out of that tent in the beginning and he's now completely alone, his world is blown up, his town is torn down, his people are dead, his closest associates have left him, and, there's only one thing that he's going to do, and that's turn around and blame other people for his situation, and he's going to blame Rick, and he's going to blame the prison, and he's going to blame that, and he's going to become even more sadistic and more evil and more. He will have, in my opinion, he should have had just like no more care for living, like that scene where he's wandering and then just loosely avoid. I would love to have just seen him, walking through the zombies like I just don't care, like you're just like not even here for me,
right?
You know what I mean? And you're just a nuisance, like a fly. You know what I mean? I am obsessed with one thing, and that's to burn that prison to the ground.
Right. He should be. He should be walking down the street with like every shovel should be Rick. Right. And to me, granted, that wouldn't have tied into the "Do you get to come back" theme that the show's had this season, but it would have tied in really, really well, in my opinion, with the other ongoing theme, it seems, this season, which is the constant upping the ante and adding on of doom and dread and conflict for the team Rick. And they had the zombies massing, then they had the plague, and then they ended the last episode with the shot of the governor, and you've got this idea of they've just get piles and piles of dumped on them, and now this another big pile is about to fall. Right.
The icing on the cake, kind of to speak. So that, to me, that was where I thought they were going to go, and I think that would have been a good way to go. But I don't know. I don't know why
Well,
they didn't choose to go that way.
well, before we move on to the bad and the ugly, my good. When I got done watching this episode, the first thing I thought was, okay, how am I going to break this down? What are my good, bad, and ugly? And so my first impression was, well, it was in color, which was nice, and the dialogue was in English, so that was nice too. But but
No, that whole opening first sequence was pretty good.
no,
I mean,
there were, but
and again,
there
it
were
was
little
showing,
pieces.
not telling.
There were little pieces that I liked. There were little touches that I liked. I liked the beginning when the henchman left them. I thought that was, and then he's left all alone. I thought that was great. I thought I liked the moment when he was, and we'll talk about this in a second. I thought that the whole thing with the little girl Megan, I thought it was so heavy-handed. I mean,
Yeah.
I have torticollis today from the brick that was dropped on my head with that whole thing. But when she's there with him,
I'm impressed, Torticollis.
yeah. See, I'm a
My
lapsed
son had
chiropractor.
my son had torticollis as an infant.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm familiar with that term. Well done. Most people never heard of that before.
Well, I for those who don't know,
That's
I
true.
used to be a chiropractor, so
I forget.
I hope I know what I'm talking about. Although I'm not really sure if that was a backhanded insult that I'm an infant, but I'll let it go.
No.
No, but the moment where the governor's with Philip, Brian, whatever, when he's with Megan and she says, "Where'd you get the eye patch?" and he gets quiet for a second, he says, "I'm a pirate." And she's like, "No way!" I that little moment
Yeah,
like that. I liked.
that exchange in the bath. I think it was in the bathroom. I'm not sure, but that exchange, I agree, was that was good. And when he says, "Well, I was trying to protect someone," and she's like, "Well, and it was good because the only kids can ask those kind of questions, and he's taken aback by it, and I think that's where they, then boom, they clicked, and all of a sudden they had a good connection. I agree that scene was good.
So there were little flourishes through there. The writing on the side of the barn. I liked when like you said, when he was walking down, and basically it was like he and another walker, like they just passed two ships passing in the night without, I liked that touch too. So that was about.
I liked. In the end, again, going along with what they were doing with this character, where they're, trying to show him, break him all the way down and then start to slowly build him up. He makes the connection with this family, starts to feel like he can help them and therefore start to redeem himself, maybe feel better about what he's done. But he's running with that girl at the end and falls into that pit. And it's the minute he fell into that pit and there were zombies in it, I was like, oh my God, that's one of his pits. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's wild. That totally caught me off guard. And then of course, when Martinez shows up at the top, I was like, man, no matter what this guy does, you know what I mean?
Well, the parallels between him and Rick are amazing. I mean, they're yin and yang, it's like every time Rick, not all of them, but a lot of the troubles that Rick gets into are due to his machinations and things that he tries to do. And, like last week when he pulls Carl out of the prison, which I think he had an ulterior motive, and that wasn't protecting Carl. That was putting Carl in a line of danger. And this one, the governor, Philip, Brian, whatever, he's running along and trying to get away from his past and start himself anew, and he falls right back into his own pit, into his, his own machination. So, the parallels between those two are.
I thought that was a nice touch, and I thought that was well done. One thing that they might do that would be kind of interesting, but too hard for me to swallow, but I'm wondering if they might end up having the governor up, and they're trying to make you think he's going to lead this charge against the prison, but I wonder if what's going to end up happening is he's going to make a plea to Rick to take the family in, or or team up with them, or try to, again, I don't know.
I will stop watching the show then.
Yeah,
that'll just be ludicrous.
I got this sneaking suspicion that they might try to do something like that, and then of course, kind of like what they did with Merle. It seems like with Merle, but you see, it was so much easier to go with Merle and believable with Merle because one of his incredible tight bond with his brother,
right,
who had chosen this other team, or Team Rick, over him when they went out together alone after they break away from
Yep.
the governor. And he spent some time with him, and he's like, dude, you and I just don't work anymore, So I'm going back to the people who I care about. And so Merle was like, damn, he made that choice. So he's here. So I want to be with him. You know what I mean? I could believe that. One, two, the governor practically killed him. You know what I mean? Tried to kill him. So he had no love for the governor. So I could see that, sending him over to Team Rick. Three, he, there was a third. This is what happens when you get old. But anyway, it was just, the other thing is that he had not done anything on the scale that the governor had. Yes, he tortured Glenn, but he didn't kill him. Yes, he, had killed some people that he shouldn't have in a horrible way. But, it was, remember that kid he took out? There was that, they went out looking for Michonne, and the kid was like his first time out, and he kept screwing everything up. So he ends up killing the kid. Yeah. But it's like, it wasn't sadistic. It was just, dude, you're going to get me killed.
Right.
So you're out of here. So, all of those things, they're horrible and evil and everything else, but they were not governor level. Right. So I could take the idea that Merle would start to be part of this group. And then when he had that whole conversation with Michonne, and he tries to, then he decides to turn himself around and go and leave her and save her basically, and then go, try to take the governor down himself and be the hero. And it was a great ending for him. It was and I think they're trying to do that again. And I think it's a huge mistake.
Well, exactly. I totally agree. And the intimation that we saw in the trailer for next week is that Martinez and Lackey number 2, they've got this new camp of people, and the governor's showing up with Lily and Tara, two new women. So this is going to be, that whole redemption thing. This is how the governor. You just know that Martinez and Lackey number 2 or Lackey number 2 are going to make a play for the new girls, right? Because that's just how it's going to roll. And Philip's got to step up to the plate and save them. And again, it's tired.
Well, it's like they're trying to pick up the pieces that they were left with last season and still complete the story. And this story doesn't get completed unless the prison gets raided. You know what I mean? Yep. Unless it gets attacked somehow. And how's the governor going to do that without a crew? Right. So, or how, so they had to put him together with the crew. Now, whether he leads the charge or ultimately he's against the charge because they're trying to get a redeemer, I don't know, but there's going to be a charge. Yeah. And you know what I mean? And to me, it's like it's so predictable that when we saw in the earlier part of the season, we saw that horde, you remember? And we speculated or joked about the idea that, man, what if the governor finds a way to, Pied Piper that horde and bring it to the, with the tank, and bring it to the prison. I was like, now that would be badass,
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, but, instead they're going traditional, and they're like, well, we just completely destroyed his army last season. So now we got to give him a new army. And I'm like, I don't buy it. Yeah. It's just, but again, how much of that is Scott Gimple's fault, or how much of that is just trying to, make something from the pieces that were left behind for him after last season's finale.
But the thing is and we talked about how if he's shuffling along and he's just, I just think of that the Simpsons episode where Moe does something to Homer, and the entire time, for a couple minutes, it's just like Moe, all work and Moe play makes Moe's a Moe, and he's just obsessing about Moe. And if Philip is doing that about Rick, I get that, but they've beaten him down so much. Now they've given him a surrogate Penny. They've given him, a wife, a surrogate wife. Now he's got a companion. He's got people to care about. How do you get from where he is now to, what? We got to go knock that prison down, and I got to go get my revenge on Rick. They're so, they're completely different avenues now.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he's going to that's why I'm saying I don't think they're going to bring him that way, and that's what scares me. I don't think they're going to bring him to he wants revenge. I think he's going to try and I think what they're going to try and do is say that he was so turned down that now he wants redemption. Now he wants, he wants to be a good guy and go back to the guy he was, when he first founded Woodbury, and trying to
Martinez.
help people.
Okay, so what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't? I don't want to be in charge anymore. I just want to be a family man. I want to take care of this little girl. I promise I'm going to take care of her. And I'm bagging this hottie over here, and I want to keep that going. I don't want to be in charge. So it's Martinez and and the other
Lackey number two. I think he said.
These two guys, we're going to build an army. And you know what? They still have a mean on. We still got to finish what we started at the prison. So what if they're the ones that go there, and it's that, they're the final scene in Return of the Jedi, right? Follow along here. So Martinez and them they're fighting. They would be the Emperor. Luke would be Rick and company in the prison, and as this is going on, Darth Vader, the governor, is sitting there, kind of sees this happening, and then he steps in, saves the prison and Rick by attacking Martinez, and then therefore Rick and the governor are now friends, and oh my God, I think I just threw up in my mouth.
I don't think they're going to be friends, and I do think that the governor is going to die, but I think he's going to die saving people or trying to save people. Yeah. And part of that, I think, is going to be trying to coordinate with the prison or help Rick or offer to help Rick or ask Rick to take the girls in or I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
As long as it doesn't end with him and Michonne shaking hands and her giving him a solemn nod of the head all right, you're redeemed. Forget that.
Well, and the other thing that scares me here is not scares me. It's a horrible thing if I'm scared of not having this, but I was hoping that they would follow along the comic with regards to how in the comic what they do with Tyrese and how the whole beheading thing, because that was just probably the most shocking story development in that comic up to that point for me. It was just totally, here was this probably one of my favorite characters of comics all time, was Tyrese and Rick and man, it was just that was just wild.
We're talking Kirk's talking about issue 48 of Walking Dead if you're not comic savvy.
Yeah, the governor comes back to attack the prison, and he's captured, I guess, Michonne and Tyrese, who had gone after them. It's funny because it's a little bit like last season. You remember when after they hit, Daryl and Michonne both said, we have to go after him. We have to finish this, and then they don't, and Rick holds them back or whatever. But that was definitely a tip of the hat to the comic. And but in the comic, they do go after him, or at least Tyrese, who kind of is the Daryl of the comic book. And they get captured, and the governor brings them to the prison and says, now I'm gonna kill this guy. I'm gonna cut off his head if you don't open up these gates. And Rick says, we can't open these gates. We open up these gates, he's gonna come in here and they're gonna kill all of us.
Yep. And
he cuts off his head. And just then, I think, is when Andrea comes back and starts picking them off. Yeah. I'm not positive. And and that's when all hell goes in a handbasket. But it's a really dramatic, powerful, just crazy sequence that I kept assuming we were going to get in this, but maybe we're not. Maybe it's too heavy for TV. I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess for me, my bad wasn't. I'd like to say it's the entire episode, but it's not, because the directing and the cinematography was good. The director actually was Michael Uppendahl, who this is his first episode of directing Walking Dead, and why I'm especially familiar with him is I podcast for the Disturbed podcast where we talk about American Horror Story, and he's been the director on American Horror Story. So I thought it was pretty funny to see him come over to here. And Nicole Beatty wrote this episode. This is the third Walking Dead episode she's written. So the bad part, I think, is just how heavy-handed certain things were, especially with Megan, the little girl, where the actress, her name's Audrey Marie Anderson, who I was actually really happy to see her on this because I used to watch The Unit about a Delta Force. Army's Delta Force that used to be on TV, and it was a favorite show of mine. And she was one of the wives on there. It was great. So she's on as Lily in this one, and she says something to Philip. As soon as you showed up, Megan thought you were her daddy, who went out for cigarettes 3.5 years ago and never came back. And you're just like, oh, really? That's where my torticollis came from, the big cinder block on my head. It was just. It was just so heavy there.
When he saw her up in the window, and then he looks away, and then he looks back, and she's not there.
Yeah.
And then he went in looking for them, and I was like, it would have been really cool if he went up there and there was just nobody there.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping.
Right, because then it was kind of like now he's starting to get delusional and see his daughter. You know what I mean? And that would have been believable, but they didn't go that way. So yeah, I agree. I think that the acting was solid.
Yep.
I think that the characters were solid and well done. I agree with cinematography. I thought the beginning was excellent. I thought there were a couple of bits that we talked about already that throughout that were well done. So it wasn't like I sat there groaning, through the whole thing, but it just felt like season 2. Again, with the beating us over the head with the dialogue, this is obviously somebody he thinks is his daughter, or he has bringing up his feelings about his daughter, his wife. We had already gone through that. Andrea looked like his wife. Remember?
Yep.
He's, we've already done this with this character. You know what I mean? Just too heavy-handed. I agree.
One of the cinematography things I noted, because I thought it was really cool, was he's taking the oxygen canister and he's beating the father's head in, and then when he raises back and he goes down again, suddenly we're outside and he's got a shovel in the ground. I thought that was an awesome cut to the graveyard.
But the fact, let's talk about the bad. All right, how in the hell could this family have survived this long? First of all.
Right.
Second of all, how could they have survived this long and not know that you have to shoot the zombies in the head?
Right.
And, give me a break. First of all, she supposedly, was a cop in training at the academy. She knows to shoot the head. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you don't have to have zombies in this society. We've talked about how the Kirkman world doesn't have zombies in their culture. So they didn't, they weren't prepared, or as knowledgeable. But my God, anything, if you want to shoot anything and kill it right away, you shoot it in the head.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's just pardon the expression, that's a no-brainer. So.
Right. Well, and if you've been shooting them in the chest and they're not going down, don't you think
exactly.
You want to try something else?
Yeah, let's try the hand. Let's try the foot. Let's try the kneecap. Let's try. Hello, let's go north. So that was just too hard to believe. That was drawing me off. His hair and his beard were the most pathetic makeup. I mean, oh my God, that was bad. I mean, and I heard somewhere I was watching The Talking Dead afterwards, and they do this sequence that's sponsored by Subway or whatever. They call it the Walking Buzz or something like that. And they do little tidbits about the episode that you didn't know. And supposedly that beard and hair stuff were like specially made for him over in England. Well, man, talk about a waste. That was just, with all the special effects they do, I couldn't believe it. It didn't even look like it belonged on him. That was driving me crazy. I thought, the exchange with the father as well was just like all the other heavy-handed. I thought, where he's talking about, it's so important to protect the daughters and blah, blah. It's like, obviously that's gonna be a button for this guy. We don't, you know what I mean?
And if he knows that the father doesn't have, he's been around the world or around the area. He knows the state of things. if he kind of knows that the father's on the way out and he wants to look out for it, doesn't he pull the daughters aside and say, okay, look, I'm going to tell you something. Here's how it's going to go down. He's going to die, and then bad things are going to happen. So,
right. Totally not prepare them for that. And
Yeah.
how could they for a year not have seen somebody go
exactly.
by their place, get killed, and then get up and be? I mean, it's just too hard to believe. Then the other just little things too. I mean, I hate to just be whining and complaining, but there's just little things that are annoyances. Like, he's walking for months. He's starved. He's delusional. But then when he comes and he's like he's not even coherent practically when they bring him in. But then when they need to get the father into the bedroom, he picks the father up and carries him in as if I'm a big, strong man. And that's supposed to, the girls are like, oh, we need a big, strong man around here. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's, but it's like, dude, he shouldn't be able to pick up a freaking pencil.
Right.
You know what I mean? He hasn't eaten really anything for like 2 months.
Right.
So that was just little things that
I thought when she shows up and Lily shows up and gives him the bowl, the plate of SpaghettiOs, and then he takes it to the window and dumps it out.
What the heck?
My first thought was that he thought, that he was like protecting himself, like maybe they drugged it and then they were gonna rob him. I thought they were kind of he was being super protective of himself, just in case. But yeah, then you look back and you're like, okay, that wasn't it at all. She was just being nice, and you clearly don't like SpaghettiOs, but you really don't have a choice now. Food be food.
Instead, he's eating like cat food or
it's either cat food or tuna or something. Yeah,
dude, go for the SpaghettiOs, man.
Exactly.
I'm gluten intolerant. I would eat those bad boys, man. I mean, I guess they were trying to say, he didn't want to be connected to them. He didn't want to take anything from them. He didn't want any favors from them. He didn't want to feel somehow indebted to them. I think he was he just wanted to be alone supposedly, but then why'd he go in and find them, So I thought throwing the food out was ridiculous. The trip to the old age home, it was like a freaking comedy. It was like a zombie. I thought it was Zombieland. It was. I mean, why wouldn't he knife those zombies that he passes in the head, putting them down so that they don't make any noise as he's trying to get? You know what I mean? I mean, I suppose you could argue he's not thinking straight, but man, wow.
The past couple episodes, it seems like there's. It reminds me of watching Buffy. When you watch an episode of Buffy, there's certain beats, right? There's there's the opening teaser, and then there's the angsty portion in the first act, and the second act is the beginning of the fight scene. And there's always like right around the second or third act, there's like an obligatory vampire staking, little scene. Every single episode has the same beats. Past couple episodes, it feels like there's a similar kind of a plotting going on here, where it's opening and then the setup and then this, and then we have to have an obligatory rush through some kind of little zombie escapade, and then the resolution and the rest of the story. So it's like they're trying to pigeonhole a zombie event, encounter in these episodes, which, like you said, it didn't. The guy's worldly, but he's got experience. It didn't have to go down like that.
I agree with you that I think they've been doing that to some degree this season, but to me, they've been doing it extremely effectively up until this point. It's like they said, well, listen, we've got zombies are a part of this show. They're an integral part of this world and of this story. We have to incorporate zombies into this, not just have them be there, which was what was happening last season. And not just have it be like the zombie confrontation of the week. And I think they did that really effectively the first half up until this point. Especially the last 2 episodes where it seemed they built the episode to a crescendo where you had the confrontation with the zombies. And I just this to me was like you're saying. I totally agree. This was somehow we got to get some zombie action in here. So let's do this, and it didn't work for me.
Well, Tara's at the end when they're walking.
I'm ready to go to ugly when you're ready.
Okay, well, I just want to talk about another thing that I thought was laughably silly was the walking down the road, and I don't know why we had to find out that Tara's a lesbian, but okay, whatever. And then she's walking around. Worst sprained ankle
Yeah,
ever.
nothing around, totally nothing around. But she takes off the backpack or something and she trips.
She turns around to look behind her, and I guess it was too fast to spin, and she twisted her ankle. Yeah,
Absolutely ridiculous.
no
Absolutely.
way she'd have made it through the police academy.
And I'm sorry, but there's something completely creepy about them trying to like do the nasty in the truck
Yes,
with the little girl and the sister sleeping freaking inches away from them.
right.
Just I mean, I get it, it's the zombie apocalypse and stuff, but you
And people
know,
got needs and all, and
yeah, but man, then you tell the sister to watch the daughter outside of the truck for an hour, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And you don't,
hour,
uh,
minutes.
back when I was young. Um, so yeah, that creeped me out, and I just thought that was really weird. They didn't need to go there. For instance, like they had almost the same kind of setup, the very first episode this season with Tyrese and Karen, and they created this very romantic, loving, compassionate connection between them with some hint of sexual tension, but they didn't have to go that graphic.
Right,
I mean, she could have just rolled over and spooned him, you know what I mean,
right.
and you would have gotten the same message. She likes this guy. She's attracted to him now. He can respond positively.
She wants to be a top.
She wants him. He wants her. Right. But they
No,
didn't have to like consummate it there in the truck with the kid next to him. So.
well, I think that's also another failing of this episode is that they try to do too much inside of. We had to redeem the governor inside of an hour of a show, which is actually less
Well,
than you cut the
I
commercials.
totally agree with you, but I will say that I think it was a really smart decision to not do with the governor what they did last season with Woodbury, and that is to constantly split every episode between the two,
Yeah.
and in the end dilute both and get a worse product overall. I think that was really smart, and it was. I thought it was. I think it's proven to be a really, really smart move to have given us all this prison up to this point, and then now introduce him and give him his own episode. I was ultimately fine with that, but I just don't like what they did with it.
Okay, so we've got before we get to ugly, we've got 2 episodes left. We think before the mid-season hiatus, and it looks like did we see any of the regular crew in the trailer for next week? So next week could be another. So it looks like another governor-centric episode.
Yep.
Which,
Yep.
if that's true, there are 2 episodes to go, and you do now another governor-centric. Man, bad stuff's got to happen if it's going to lead up to something brewing at the prison.
Yeah, and I tell you I guess they're keeping I'm finding it really frustrating not finding out what the reaction between Daryl and Rick with what happened with Carol.
Oh yeah.
But I guess they're trying to save that, and then Teresa's reaction and Michonne's reaction. They're kind of holding all of that for that finale so that they can just make the finale this huge emotion explosion as well as obviously physical explosion with
it's a basically a version of that old joke, how do you keep an idiot in suspense? I'll tell you later.
Right. Exactly.
All right, so ugly.
Well, we kind of talked about it a little bit. My main one is that I thought the strength of the season so far has been the ever mounting pressure and horror that the world keeps dumping on Team Rick. And the governor looked like he was going to be the next big bag of shit to hit the fan, and it just doesn't seem like that's going to be the case now. I was hoping to see the governor finally be his whacked out equivalent of his comic book version, even with the mustache and the greasy long hair. But that I don't think we're going. The second thing for me was. The Walking Dead is weakest when it's making completely nonsensical decisions.
Yeah.
And leaving the apartment building with those girls had to be one of the stupidest things that anyone has ever done in the show. They had, they made a big point of saying how much food they had, They're elevated. They had a limited amount of walkers that were above them. With him there, they could have easily gone up and taken those out. They had a secured, fortified position. They could oversee what was going on below them. It made absolutely no sense to then go out into this world. The three of them the three girls are obviously not, conditioned or what's out there. They didn't even know to shoot them in the head, or that they come back right away. And so they're not prepared, and where are they going?
Right.
Where, he knows what's out there. He knows what the world's like. Where did he think he was going to take them? The impression I got from one of their lines was that, there must be something better. There must be like a military base or something like that. He knows the situation. You know what I mean? So what the hell is he thinking? Plus that truck's not going to get them very far. The roads are a mess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was nothing about that decision that made any sense, with the exception of it helped further the plot and got him to run into this other crew, and puts the girls in danger, which he's got to try to protect them from. But man, that was gut-wrenchingly bad writing, in my opinion, and really flashback to previous seasons.
Well, when the truck broke down, the first thing I thought was, oh, man, you need a Dale. Because remember how many times the camper broke down? And
yeah, Dale and Jim, was it?
And Glenn would go run off and go, all right, I need a hose, I need an alligator clamp, and I can fix this thing back up.
A couple of hair clips. So that's my ugly. What's yours?
My ugly, I actually went for for a zombie kill for my ugly. I had to go with I guess it would be my zombie kill of the week. So my ugly is the poor old vet who's up in the bathtub, sands his legs, and he's got a gun in his hand, and I took it to be that he tried to off himself. And it didn't work, and now he's stuck in a tub, can't get out, and
I saw him again. I will say this: I liked that sequence. I thought that it was creative in terms of their choice of the type of zombie and the situation that he was in, and I thought it was another. It's almost like every episode now we get at least one portrait of zombies that is sympathetic.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. I love that, because to me, again, these are people, these are human beings that have become these horrible monsters.
Yep.
And so, you have to have some compassion for that. And to me, that guy was a hero. And it obviously was not an easy task. You could tell from the way the room was set up and everything was strewn. He worked hard to get himself into that tub, and he knew if he did, then if he became a zombie, he wasn't going to hurt anybody. And I just thought that was amazingly brave and cool, and yet we never even met that guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I hats off to that. I thought that was a well done sequence.
Going back to a couple dumb things that the governor did, one was because you
it's endless in this episode. I'm sorry, but it's endless.
Well, with the he gets the 6-shooter and he's like, no, I'll hold on to this. She's like, here's your Beretta, which is at least 12 rounds in there, and no, I'll keep this wheel gun with a couple rounds left in it.
Plus, he's had it. He's been probably cleaning it. It's in probably good condition. Yeah. That other pistol's been sitting up there rusting in the tub for a year.
Yeah. So that's a good call. And so I thought when he makes the run to go get the oxygen tank and he's fires a couple rounds off that, he was going to end up coming down to click click click. And I'm actually talking to TV. I wish you had a Beretta now, huh? Smart guy. But that one,
maybe, I don't know, maybe they, again, maybe he was trying to say, I'm going to let them have the good weapon because I want them to protect themselves. Again, trying to redeem himself, trying to, make him a more positive character. I don't know.
And when he was up with the vet, and he's up in the room, or in the bathroom, and there's a wheelchair there. I thought he was going to bring the wheelchair down along with the backgammon set, because that would help the girls out too. No, he just comes back with the backgammon set. Maybe that's a foreshadowing that his redemption isn't fully complete, because he's still.
I loved that. I loved though that he'd found the mother load of oxygen tanks, and he was on a wheelie cart too. Oh baby, he was golden. You know what I mean? And he's lucky to get out of there with 2 tanks.
I thought a round was gonna hit a tank and blow that whole thing up.
Oh, that would have been awesome. That would have been awesome if the whole building blew up and that's how he ended. Oh, that's terrible. That's awesome though. That would have been great.
All right.
My zombie kill of the week was the Pop Top Walker. That's what they called it on Talking Dead. That the one where he takes the bone and rips half
by
the
femur.
off.
Yeah.
That was freaking awesome.
That was.
Yeah.
I like the throat pull too.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. That made no sense to me though. It was cool. It was gory. It was gross.
But
dramatic.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, well, you'll slow it down, but you're not going to kill it.
Are you not even going to slow it down? The jaw. If he had like reached up, grabbed under the jaw, ripping, you know what I mean, instead of the throat, and gone up in and cupped the jaw and ripped it out, that would have been cool. Because now the thing's useless, right? It can't do anything without jaw. But I didn't understand.
Maybe he's cutting off blood flow to the head, so the thing gets a little woozy. I don't know. There was an awful lot of blood in that thing too.
Well, it was funny. The Talking Dead that was on afterwards, they had a clip about how they shot that scene, and about the special effects that were involved and everything. And the throat pouch that he pulls, it's filled with bacon, and all this red blood stuff. It was just gross. It was so gross. Oh man.
Well, it's funny because during that scene when he's in the pit and he's fighting the zombies, and I think there was music going in the background, Bear McCreary's soundtrack, but then you heard staccato popping. And I was like, who's firing the automatic weapon?
Right.
And then, at the end you see Martinez come up with his gun. So they must have been popping off.
I didn't hear that. I remember other people were talking about that, and I did not hear that. But I was kind of focused on the fight, I guess. I thought the zombie of the week was a tie for me between the tub zombie, which we just talked about, and then the zombie that face plants in the fire. One, it was just sometimes The Walking Dead is great in that there's very little humor in the show,
right?
But sometimes when there is humor, they do it in a way that it's like dark humor, like it's not really a funny thing, but it was pretty funny to see it.
Yeah.
See it. They didn't. It wasn't all that well pulled off because she quickly crawls out of it, and then they change she falls face first into it, but then they switched camera to the other side, and she's already past it.
Yeah.
And you see flames going up in the back as if her dress is catching on fire or whatever. But so it kind of lost its, I think, effect because it would have been better if she flopped right into it and then was on fire. But I thought it was interesting their choice there. Again, that whole opening sequence much stronger than the rest of the episode, but that particular zombie was an interesting choice. I mean, I definitely think they were again trying to say, not hint or echo, this guy's past relationship with his wife, with Andrea, with his daughter. It was because that she was clearly a woman, long hair in a dress.
Right.
I mean, you don't see a lot of zombies like that anymore because they're also deteriorated, And it was just kind of this, almost like a ghost, like this. There was this ghost of either what he's done or of the women in the past that have died at his hand, either because he couldn't protect them or because he killed them, and they were coming for him.
Yeah.
And that was powerful. I thought that was very powerful. Again, that whole opening sequence was as if it belonged to a different movie, a different episode, So I've got no character of the week. I really didn't care for any of the new family. If anybody, the mother. I don't know if Lily, the older sister. I thought they did a good job. Their acting was good. I kind of liked the sister. She was funny. you know, in her kind of like, you know, I'm going to kick your ass if you mess with us type of way.
Right.
But again, I agree with you. There was no need to clarify that or point out that she was lesbian. You know, and it seemed like almost a little heavy-handed, you know, like they were trying to make her tough, and then they had to somehow say why that was the case.
Right.
Why? Because, you know, what, they're worried people are going to think, well, who's going to, you know, get the governor? You know, and it's like, she can't get the governor. It's got to be Lily, so we'll make her gay. You know,
Yeah.
what? You know, it's like,
Well, I didn't have a character of the week either. I didn't think anybody was well defined enough. And
I mean,
my red shirt of the week would have been was Tara. I had her pegged from the beginning. When she leads off, you know, I'm a cop, which I threw the BS flag on her. You're like 18. You're a cop. Come on. And I thought that when she twisted her ankle poorly at the end, that was going to be her demise.
Was it Lily Lily twisted her ankle?
No, it was
Lily,
Tara. It was Tara.
Was Tara?
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was Lily. Okay.
So
yeah, that was lame.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, it did have last week. Oh, again, if you compare the portrait of Herschel last week with the portrait this week of the governor, just again like two different shows.
Night and day. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I just want to make that comparison. Thought last week that I forgot to mention was my guess is that what Glenn goes through. Remember, on the beginning of the first season, he didn't want to have a baby, and Maggie does.
Right.
I think that his experience with almost dying from the flu is going to push him to then want to have a baby. Because I think that's where they're going with that. Just wanted to come back to that. And what else? Yeah, that was pretty much it. You know, I know in one breath I'm saying I thought it was that they, you know, gave us a full episode here as opposed to trying to split between the two. But I don't know if I want to go a whole nother full episode, you know, of the governor this week. I kind of hope they don't do that. You know, I kind of, as much as I'm going against what I just said earlier, I kind of hope they split it up a little bit. But, you know, I guess how can they without addressing a lot of the issues that we talked about, like with Daryl's reaction and stuff. And if they do that, they're going to want to make it a big deal, and half of an episode isn't going to work. So, yeah, my guess is we're going to get all governor all day next time.
All governor all the time, which hopefully.
And I tell you, if he becomes if they try to make him a hero, if he tries to stand up against his old crew because they're doing something that, you know, is in line with what he do, and he doesn't want to, I'm just going to be so disappointed, you know, so disappointed.
I think that's going to, you and I aren't going to be alone in that. There's going to be millions of viewers that are going to be upset with that.
Yeah, I took a little look around, and you know, there was definitely a mixed reaction. I wouldn't say it was all bad, but it certainly was not on the par that the rest of the season has been in terms of positive reviews. And was that what you found as well, looking around?
Well, yeah, and what I find funny is opening paragraphs in people's pieces are, you know, it starts off, you can just tell that they were completely disappointed. They do their recap, but then in the final paragraph, it gets summed up as, I like this redemption story of the governor. And wait, you just started off, and throughout this entire piece, you've backhanded the show, and at the end, you're still going to give it 3.5 to 4 stars out of 5. Come on.
Right. I'm curious to see what Walking Dead cast, my podcast that I love to follow with Jason and Karen. I'm curious to see how they're going to react to it. The website I love, IO9, that I'm always going to, and you know, I will tell you that they were pretty disappointed. And I'll just read you their headline.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen it yet. They're always witty with their.
The governor returns in the first crappy Walking Dead of the season. That's pretty, you can't get more blunt than that.
Yeah. Don't
More
sugarcoat it or
blunt
anything.
than that. I was going to try and read a passage from it, but I didn't get an advanced look at this. Anyway, they pretty much echo a lot of our sentiments and a lot of the sentiments that are out there. So, again, I feel bad in some respect because it's clear. I mean, we had four or five, right? This is episode 6.
6, yep.
We had 5 spectacular episodes, best start to a season, pretty much unanimous love in terms of all the reviews. Ratings were huge. They were steamrolling along. So, and I think they tried to do or trying to do something unique and different with how they bring this guy back as opposed to predictable. In most cases, I would applaud that. I think in this particular case, this character should have been handled predictably.
Yeah.
I think they had a tough road to hoe, or a tough road to drive there, whatever the expression is, because of the way it was left at the end of last season. But it's got to be hard to be in their shoes. They take this risk, they do this, and then you start to see the reactions. And now it's all shot. It's in the can. It's done. There's no, you can't go back.
Yeah.
you can't redo it. You know what I mean? So,
Well,
it doesn't spoil the season at all for me. This guy had to be dealt with. The character couldn't just remain out there. You're always going to wonder, what happened to him, and want to know, some finality to it. My guess is too, they probably feel like, we've got to take out some regulars this season. Better to, I mean, this is perfect. You know what I mean? This way they don't have to mess up the group too much. You know what I mean? But yet he's a reoccurring character, so they're taking some risk by getting rid of him, although everybody knew he had to go. But I just would have loved to see him go out in a bigger, I'm sitting here looking right now as I talk to you at the picture of him standing in front of the burning town hall. And, it was like, that's just a fantastic image. I mean, here's this guy and it's just freaking hell that he brings, and the hell just burns behind him. Yep. And they should have just kept with that momentum. Yep. You know what I mean? So I guess we've beat that horse
a little bit, but
yeah.
hopefully when they listen to the podcast, they get where we're going. So
yeah. And be sure to check out last week's episode. We got a late start on it, and it got posted late, and looks, I don't think it's had any downloads yet at iTunes, but it was a pretty good episode, and we really enjoyed reviewing that. And I think you guys you'd like to check that out. That's the Internment podcast that we did last week.
Yes, and by all means, please leave reviews and questions and comments either on the reviews on the iTunes site, and then on the Facebook page, leave questions and comments. We'd like to hear from you. As I've said before, I think that we are consistently right all the time, but you may think differently, and let us know what you think. And in the meantime, did Walking Dead 116, was that last week or this week?
116 was last week.
Came out last week. Okay.
Yes, and it was pretty good.
It was good. Part two of the war. Yeah,
of the war, and it's interesting because they're doing. Rick is in the process of doing what I had predicted that the governor might do to the prison in the TV show.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of funny. But it's a good idea. It's a good tactic in that world. It's a smart tactic because the creatures they mass and they become single focused, and so as a result they quickly grow into herds, and as herds they're and in this particular new paradigm, if you're not smart enough to see that's a wonderful weapon, you're missing a big a big stick. News-wise, I posted it on the Facebook page, but did you see the footy pajamas? Oh my God,
Yeah.
Just looking at him again, unbelievable, unbelievable. So funny. And then there was an article in Rolling Stone. I guess there's a big interview. They only put a little bit of it online, but it's with Darabont, and he talks about, for the first time, he kind of breaks his silence on, his Walking Dead experience. And I won't go into great detail, but I had to get over the emotional devastation of having some malevolent, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Malevolent.
Yeah, malevolent people tear asunder a brilliant family. So there's still a little bitterness there, I think.
Sounds like it.
But the gist of this thing is that he goes on to say how he refuses to watch it now because of how upset he was that they ripped apart his team and got in the way and everything, and it just it's
Wow.
I don't think it doesn't come off making him look too gravy. The other thing I saw was in LA, the LAPD are now, they did a video that's on their online.
I posted on the Facebook page.
Oh, you did? You saw that? The LAPD employs zombie justice.
Yeah, it's a PSA for car burglaries. So they figured that since they've got a lot of people in the area who are special effects people in the industry, I think one of the officer's friends was a screenwriter, so he came up with so it's like a 7-minute video. It's entertaining.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I read the article about it. It sounded pretty funny, and I think probably pretty smart on their part. It's funny. I was searching for news, and I don't know if you've noticed, Huffington Post has, how they have categories for everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have a category now for zombie apocalypse, and all news stories that relate to zombie apocalypse fall under that. And you can just, I was like, man, zombies are big now, huh?
Yeah.
And
when you've made it to HuffPo, you've made it.
All right.
All right.
So anyway, that's it, I guess, for today.
So if you like what you've heard, please give us comments on iTunes. Leave comments and questions on the Facebook page.
Definitely like us on the Facebook. And one thing we don't do enough of probably is, both you and I, Jeff, need to probably do a little more tweeting. We've got quite a few followers now on that account, and we need to tweet. We tweet a lot from our own accounts, but definitely like us on Facebook and check that out. We post a lot there, and definitely, as Jeff pointed out, rate us on iTunes, and let us know what we're doing. We'd love to get some feedback, hear from you guys, what you like, what you don't like, your feelings about the show, any questions you have, things like that. That'd be cool. And then please check on the Four Tigers at zgirl.org. It's a comic book Jeff and I co-created. Jeff writes and I draw, and it's about a sentient zombie who leads a special ops team, and made up of 4 ancient Chinese warrior spirits. And we think you'd probably dig it. If you dig zombies, you'd dig Z-Girl.
Absolutely. All right. So for Kirk and I, that's all we got for this week. We'll see you next week for episode 7 of Walking Dead. Have yourselves a good week.
Take care.